Welcome everyone to the Lofi Poli Sci podcast. I'm your host, Michael Pickering. That's right, Lo-Fi as in low fidelity, low quality, in your face, messy as can be global news show. It's Tuesday, Lo-Fi Nation, and you know what that means. It's time for Tuesday's Top 10 list. Every Tuesday, we look at global indicators and surveys to see what countries hold the top 10 rankings in particular categories. We'll cover things like GDP, oldest countries, newest countries, happiest countries, and more. And no worries, Lo-Fi listeners. We'll cover what each of those categories mean before we jump into the list. Today's top 10 list, Free-ist Countries in the World, brought to you by Freedom House. And what is Freedom House exactly, you may ask? Well, let's let them tell you about the organization. Quote, Freedom House is founded on the core conviction that freedom flourishes in democratic nations where governments are accountable to their people, the rule of law prevails, and freedom of expression, association, and belief, as well as respect for the rights of women, minorities, and historically marginalized groups, are guaranteed. Founded in 1941, Freedom House was the first American organization to champion the advancement of freedom globally, working as an independent watchdog organization dedicated to the expansion of freedom and democracy around the world. End quote. I couldn't have said it better myself. But now, to the list. 2020's list based on 2019 surveys of the countries, and freedom scores ranging from 0 to 100, where 100 is the freest democracy score possible. A bizarre top 11 countries with only 4 places. You'll see why in a moment. The following 4 countries are all tied at number 11 with scores of 97 out of 100. New Zealand, Ireland, Australia, and Denmark. The following 3 countries are all tied at number 7 with scores of 98 out of 100. Canada, Uruguay, and Luxembourg. And coming in at number 4, standing alone with a score of 99 out of 100, the Netherlands. And our final 3 countries, all coming in at tied for number 3 with freedom scores of 100 out of 100, we have Finland, Norway, and Sweden. Let's hear it for our 11 freest countries in the world. Now, Lo-Fi listeners out there, you may be wondering, how do you measure freedom in a democracy? And that is a great question. Firstly, let's put this out there. What's written in a constitution of a country doesn't mean jack. For example, North Korea having freedom of the press in their constitution gets them no points in Freedom House. So again, how do you measure freedom? Freedom House, hit me with it. Quote, freedom in the world assesses the real-world rights and freedoms enjoyed by individuals rather than governments or government performance per se. Political rights and civil liberties can be affected both by state and non-state actors, including insurgent and armed groups. Freedom House does not believe that legal guarantees of rights are sufficient for on-the-ground fulfillment of those rights. While both laws and actual practices are factored into scoring decisions, greater emphasis is placed on implementation. End quote. So there you have it. On-the-ground realities play the bigger part in these measures. Next, what kind of things do they look at? 7 overarching categories, each with multiple questions inside, and each question is answered with a point value ranging from 0 to 4. The point values of those answers are added together to give the 0 to 100 score. The categories are: number 1, electoral process; number 2, political pluralism and participation; number 3, functioning of government; number 4, civil liberties; number 5, associational and organizational rights; number 6, rule of law; and number 7, personal autonomy and individuals' rights. Now an example of a question under one of the categories. Under electoral processes. Are the electoral laws and framework fair, and are they implemented impartially by the relevant election management bodies? The answers are provided by country experts across the globe, and each country is asked the same questions. And now you know how we formulate the freest countries list in the world. Now to a perhaps even more thought-provoking question that I'm sure Lo-Fi Nation is asking. How can Freedom House give a 100/perfect freedom score? Is there really a such thing as a perfect country? Or a democracy? Or a perfectly free country? The answer? Simple. No, there is not. And no, Freedom House should not. Democracy is always and everywhere an unfinished process, and no country is perfectly free in the world. Now listen very closely, Lo-Fi Nation. I'm only going to say this once. Every single country, no matter how free or great they think they are, still has a lot of work to do to make democracy a reality. You see, perfect democracy simply isn't possible. There will always be discrimination against one group or another. But democracy, as a type of government in the real world, is truly measured by the ability of the people and the government to work together and move forward on a path to include more people. And you can quote me on that one, Lo-Fi Nation. And of course, you're all wondering the same question. Where's the US in this list? Well, don't ask me. Just look it up for yourself. 50-ish. Oh, what was that? Whoa, a breeze just came through the windows, sent a shiver down my spine. I must have left that window cracked. And that's this Tuesday's Top 10 list. Stay tuned for tomorrow's episode of Lo-Fi Global News. Always remember that Lofi Poli Sci is more than just me. It's the we that we be. Write in with questions or comments to lofipolisci@planetmail.com. Thanks for listening. Stay safe. Wash those hands. And I'll see you on the next episode of the Lofi Poli Sci podcast. Pickering, signing off.